So, at any rate, welcome Nick Guido. He's going to give us an introduction on his business today. So, thanks.
Thank you, John. Morning, guys. I handed out a itinerary for my little moment here. Oh, I told you this was going to be a problem.
Get back on camera.
I pace when I get nervous. It's going to be bad. I talk every week about keeping it blowing cold, even if it's old. But sometimes there is an appropriate time and place for a new system. That comes the time when the homeowner has to face that decision. So my objective for today is, I'm lucky enough to have you guys here as like a sales force for me. That's what we do for, all do that for each other. I was hoping to get you guys up to speed on key things that need to be considered when you're buying a brand new system for your house. If I could get you guys comfortable with these few basic things, and you can tell your friends and your neighbors about that, you're going to sound like you've been there before. And when they say, wow, I'm sure glad I talked to you, it sounds like you've been there before. My biggest hope of all is you say, well, I have a friend in the business, and things will unfold from there. So I have this opportunity, I really appreciate it, and I'm hoping to get you guys comfortable with these basics that need to be considered before making a decision. Like buying a whole new central system, you're talking several $1,000s. There's a few things that homeowners need to be comfortable with. I broke it down into 4 considerations. Consideration number 1 is the size of the new system. This is the word tons that you hear getting thrown around. Most houses around here are going to be between 2 tons and say 5 tons is a big house. We're talking 3,000 square feet. So a house like that could maybe have 2 ton, 2 separate systems. It's originally calculated by, I'm sorry about all the ums, it's going to happen. The amount of heat in the house, they measure the square footage of the house, they look at the windows, the way the certain windows face, the type of roof, the material that's used. There's a lot of little factors that determine the heat load of that house. In other words, how much heat is going to build up in there, how much needs to be taken out. Most cases when we're replacing systems, you're going to stick with the same size system that's in there at that point in time. There's usually like a half a ton, you can go either way. That will be sufficient for that structure. This is one of those cases where bigger is not always better. Sometimes a smaller system will do better than in an oversized system. And I think that's kind of like what Jeremiah has at his house, over-pressurized duct circulation. Anyway, homeowners should be aware of the existing size system. They should expect the contractor to explain what they have now, what they're proposing, and if the homeowner is under the impression that it needs to be bigger or smaller, the contractor should explain to them why that either is right, or in most cases it probably should not be changed. But again, the homeowner needs to be comfortable with this. They can't just be assuming he's going to put the right size system. If they have a 2 ton, the guy's proposing a 4 ton, it'll keep you comfortable. No, there's something not right there. So that needs to be out on the table. Consideration number 2 is the efficiency of the system. This is a big word nowadays, this word SEER that gets thrown around, S-E-E-R. There's a number system that they use to rate efficiencies. Right now, the number 13 is actually the minimum that we can sell, that we can install. Some of the older systems that we pull out of the older houses are like maybe a 10 SEER. A higher number means it's designed differently to use less electricity. It's more efficient. So 13 SEER is the bare minimum. What's common now is a 15 SEER, which actually qualifies for like rebates from FPL. And there's even higher, like 18 and 19 and 20 SEER. But there's a fine line that you cross when you want this most efficient, fancy system, because then you get into a lot more intricate components, smarter machines, but with smarter machines come more potential things that can go wrong. So a homeowner has to be aware of that. Sometimes the 20 SEER system that's practically a computer and communicates like that, there's a lot more potential for problems. Sometimes a simpler system is better. It depends on the homeowner's needs and their personality. Some homeowners are very independent. They research things on their own. They're interested in the field. And that type of homeowner might be a better candidate for something like that. But for somebody that doesn't really care what's out there, I just want it to be 78 or 76 in here, a simpler system, I would say a 13 or 15 SEER is where they need to be. And if you can talk to your neighbors and your friends about this word SEER, it'll instill some confidence in them, and hopefully they'll ask you, well, how'd you know about all this stuff? And again, I'm just trying to get you guys to be comfortable with it, and hopefully I can make them comfortable as well. I'm not even using my notes I made. Look at this. The SEER should always be better than what's existing. That's something that should be an improvement, as opposed to the size, which shouldn't necessarily be different. The SEER, you don't want to take a 10 SEER out and put it, you can't even buy a 10 SEER anymore. But that, just because of the nature of the time, if you're pulling something that's 15 SEER out now, something is wrong because it's probably 1 or 2 years old. You probably don't have to take the whole damn thing out right now. Somebody perhaps misled somebody. And again, the bottom line costs can be offset with more efficient machines because there's rebates you can submit to FPL. Believe it or not, they want you to use less electricity. Might sound counterproductive, but their profit line is not really linear. You know, when the grid is being utilized, they're making money, and then when it gets to a certain point, their profit drops off because they have to burn a different kind of fuel. And of course, they burn their less expensive fuel first. So they actually want us to draw maybe 80% of the grid all summer. 95%, they're actually not making as much money on that upper 15. So there's actually an incentive for them for us to be a little bit more efficient. Plus, there are federal tax credits you can apply for. It was $1,500 last year. This year, it's only $300, but it is still there. If you do get this 15 or above SEER and you have taxable income, you can apply for this credit. Warranty, very important, especially if you want to buy a fancy system. Are the parts covered? It's usually determined in years. Are the parts covered? Are all the parts covered? The compressor is your biggest, most expensive part. That tends to denote its own separate warranty coverage, if you will. Usually it's broken out separately. 10 years is standard right now. If you're hearing 5 years on a compressor, a homeowner's probably not being led the whole story. You should expect 10 years on a compressor, and even more if you have an extended warranty. Other parts are different, you know, and don't necessarily take it for what's on the contract. You need to obtain a warranty certificate from that manufacturer for that model number. That is going to trump anything any contractor says sitting at the kitchen table that day. 7 or 8 years from now, that conversation is kind of useless. You need to have the proper certificate. Again, the contractor should absolutely provide that. Or homeowners can, even nowadays, homeowners can go online, and you know, they can, the internet helps a lot. You know, you have access to this information a lot more readily. And labor, a manufacturer's warranty does not cover labor for repairs. You can purchase an extended labor warranty, but that needs to be denoted at the time of agreement. Don't sign anything assuming that 10-year warranty is, I don't pay a dime for 10 years. Most contractors still have a service charge to come out to diagnose a problem. And again, I got to change a coil or a compressor, a motor, there's a few hours there. That part is covered, but that labor is not covered by the manufacturer. So you need to have that established again before you sign that contract. Is the labor covered? What kind of a labor? What can you offer me a labor coverage? You know, and most contractors would be willing to establish something at that point if they want to maintain that relationship. Permitting and inspections. Who pays? The county, local jurisdiction, city limits. They want their fees for these inspections. They have their hand in it somehow. Some homeowners don't want permits pulled. They want to save money. Thank you. There's a chance you take there with the nature of the work, and the contractor doesn't follow up on certain things. You don't have a third party to perhaps, intervene. Things are done poorly. Things are not done safe. You're dealing with high voltage wires. You have issues that perhaps a third party needs to look at and kind of verify, yeah, this is good, or they really need to change that. And again, don't assume that that's covered. Make sure you see it broken out on your contract.